Hello, today we're visiting with author Gene Foster, author of the God Mind books. Today we're discussing some important concepts and truths from the God Mind books. Gene, please tell us about the concept of expanding our understanding of God.
All right. Well, when I was a child, I thought as a child, and I really connected the idea of God in heaven with Santa Claus, and you appeal to both for good things in your life. And I heard a lot of prayers that were petitioning God to heal. Please God, heal this person. Please God, bring some money into our family. This was during the Great Depression. I remember that as a child. A God that you had to beg to do good things. But as these books were written, I began to realize through the presentation in the books that I needed to think of God in a much larger way. And I know, and the God I was going to embrace in a new way had no definition at all. This was a great power that I could connect to live life successfully. And I didn't need to petition, beg God. I didn't need to think of God as the man upstairs, and you hear that sometimes. The man upstairs said this. Well, if you think of God as the man upstairs, that's pretty limiting, right? And wouldn't you find that limiting?
Yes, very.
And so, how are you going to expand your own God's concept? And that's what I asked myself. So, I just would practice. I'd go around the house saying, God is. And it sounded strange to me at first. I wanted to put words out there to define God. But finally, I quit defining God and just said, God is, and let that come within me. And then I realized a much greater God than I had ever thought of before. Some people tell me they feel like hiding from God. Did you ever hear of that? They
Yes.
don't really want God to look at them because they're afraid bad things will happen. Because they think, well, I've done something wrong and God's going to zap me here. So I want to stay out of the way. And you've heard this one about don't tell God your plans. Have you heard that?
No.
I can't think how it goes exactly. Don't tell God your plans or he'll laugh later
Right.
as terrible things happen to you. So that's a limited God concept, certainly. So if you can just let go of that and say, all right, God is. God is. And you can't really wrap your mind around it. It's just impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But finally, you find that you're embracing that, and there is a much more powerful God available to me, Ron, and to you. That's the greatness of this understanding of this concept.
Exactly. The concept of starting with an idea that God is like Santa Claus is one that resonates with me. As I read the books and it was challenging me to expand my concept of God, one of the things that came to mind was the concept of perfection. God is perfection. So I said within myself, what is perfection? What would a perfect God be? And when I started identifying, God became much more feminine to me in terms of a human because of the love and kindness, for example, that my grandmother had showed me. And yet we think of the ability of God to be perfect, understanding, never judging, always kind. And so in going through that filter, I found that I was able to open up to the greatness and the goodness that God is.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I do like that. Very good.
Thank you, Gene, for the discussion on expanding our concept of God.